going on, everybody? Alright, so in this episode we're going to revisit Flash. The last video that I did regarding how to make Flash not look like Flash ran into issues with the current Flash that I had. It was at that time it decided it was just no longer going to work properly, so I couldn't actually get the information that I wanted in the correct way. So I'm using Godox TT350 and the Godox X2T trigger, and I will be walking you through the ins and outs of Flash photography, basically. A lot of beginners, when they first get their Flash, they just shove it on the camera, and that's where we're going to start in this video. They throw it on the camera, they leave it in auto, they shoot, they want to learn more, they adjust settings, nothing seems to change, and I will explain why. We're going to be using my Froggy model here, Frida Frog, and alright, let's just jump right into it. Okay, so to get started, as you see, I have the Flash set in TTL, so it's in full automatic mode. All the parameters are all set up and everything, and I will show you. I have, let me just lower my tripod here. Alright. And as you'll see in a sec, once I get this back down, right on the little Frida Frog there. There we go. Okay, so as you see, I am in green mode, which is a full automatic mode on the camera. My settings are 1/100th of a second at f4. ISO is an auto ISO. So with the Flash facing forward, let's take a shot and see what happens. Alright, so that is what this looks like. Let me zoom this out a bit. And as you can tell, that result was absolutely terrible, and that is not the look that you should be looking to achieve at all, ever, period. That's a look you want to avoid, because that screams, I don't know what I'm doing, I just pointed my Flash at the subject and I hit the shutter button. Now, moving on, I'm going to show you something else. So I'm going to leave the Flash in TTL mode. I'm going to point the head back at Frida Frog. And my camera, as you can see, is in manual mode now. And I'm going to take a shot with the same settings as before. Okay. And now from here, I'm going to change the aperture. Now the problem is, because the Flash is in TTL, the Flash is going to do what it can to compensate for the changes I'm making on the camera itself. So there shouldn't be much difference between the last photo and this one. And as you can see, there is virtually no major difference whatsoever. It still looks like crapola. So the problem is a lot of beginners don't understand that when you introduce Flash, you're introducing a completely separate exposure from the actual photo that you're taking. The camera does one exposure, the Flash is creating a different exposure. So you have to merge the two together. Now the best way to do that is to start off with shooting. It depends on the outlook. If you want the background, then you would expose for the background. I'll give you a quick example of that. Let me just turn off the Flash. Okay, so we want to expose for the background. Let's go to f4. I want to have a slightly faster shutter speed, so I'm going to want to increase my ISO. Let's go to 400. That should be good. Take a picture. Okay, that's with no Flash whatsoever. That's with Flash, directly on, no Flash. Alright, now let's just change the battery before we continue. Alright, and now I'm back. Alright, so let's take a shot. And that's brought in a lot of the ambient lighting that's around because I increased the actual ISO and also the white balance of the flash did sort of accentuate the ambience of the lighting. Now what I want to do is eliminate the lighting entirely. So counterintuitively, what I will be doing is dropping the ISO down and dropping the shutter speed. Actually, I want to change how much of the flash is getting into the image, and you control the flash output to a certain extent with your actual aperture. So I'm changing this to f8 from 5.6, and let's see how that looks. Again, the flash is directly facing forward, but it's still in TTL. So pretty much nothing that I do is going to really change the flash output. Now what I'm going to do is change the flash to manual. So now the flash is in manual mode. Right now we'll start at half power. And now you'll notice that every time I make a change on the camera, it's directly affecting the actual exposure that I'm getting. So we'll start with the exact same settings as this image here. All this will stay the same. ISO 100, f8, 1/180th of a second. Completely different look. Completely different output. Now, it still looks a little too bright. No, too bright for me anyway. So what we can do is bring the flash power down to 1/4 and see how that fares. It's a bit better, but we can still do better than that. And it's at this point that we are going to bounce the flash. Now, what do I mean by bounce the flash? That is tilting the flash up so it's bouncing off of something. In this case, my white ceiling. So let's see how that goes. Now, I'm not changing any of the settings whatsoever. I'm not changing the flash power, and this should be a pretty underexposed image. Yeah, now the reason being is the distance the light now has to travel, because it has to actually bounce off the ceiling, then use the ceiling as a reflector, and then fire back down again. There's not enough power at 1/4 in order to travel that distance. So what we're going to do is lower the aperture. Let's go to f4. And look at that. The only thing I changed was the aperture. That's it. The only thing that I changed. So there you can clearly see that aperture directly affects the amount of flash lighting getting into your image. No tricks. No tricks at all, I promise. Alright, well, there you go. Quick, dirty, how to use flash, how to manipulate flash, how to work with flash, basically how to get out of just throwing it on the camera and shooting it facing your subject, how to get better light out of the flash, and just wanted to quickly go over, it is a separate exposure from the image that you're taking. So I hope that you actually take something out of this video. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below and I will help you out. And there will be more flash videos coming. I'm going to get into high-speed sync and off-camera flash as well. I know, I was going to get into it in this video. However, I thought about it and it is a fair amount to take in at first, and I want to give you guys some time to practice what you saw in the video. So remember 3 things. Aperture controls the amount of flash that ends up into your image. The shutter speed controls the amount of ambient lighting, so the background, the outdoor lighting and whatnot, and the ISO, increasing that, actually affects the entire overall exposure, because it's a sensitivity setting, so the camera becomes more sensitive to all light that shows up within the image. So remember those three things. Get out there, practice your flash shooting, and you guys will see me on my next video. Peace.